It's game 3 of Magnus against Hans. Magnus trailing by a full point against his opponent, which he now gives a handshake to Hans Niemann. Hans, leading by a full point, doesn't look too excited about his lead, but he is up the lead. After winning against him in good style, he actually outplayed Magnus with his knight, with his piece play in the end game, and even mated him. Because Magnus blundered mate in 1. Now Magnus is looking to strike back, thinking about what to play, and the handshake, there we go. What is Magnus gonna play? D4, knight f6, and it's a London with bishop f4. And Hans replies with d5. Everything looking quite normal up until now. The knight is gonna develop to f3. But what is Hans gonna play? Bishop f5. c4 by Magnus. And e6, looking to play solidly Hans. Now after knight c3, Magnus' plan is probably to put the queen on b3. Knight f3 first. But queen b3 is still looking very decently, attacking the pawn on b7. And bishop b4 by Hans. And now even more. Even more, queen b3 is looking more attractive. There's also bishop e2, but then black could take the pawn on c4 and could lose the tempo, but he does go and develop the bishop. Hans doesn't take the pawn, and castles by Magnus as well. Hans thinking. He's feeling the pressure a little bit. He never has been so close in the Blitz section of this tournament. He's having a great tournament so far, and he's playing h6. A prophylactic move. A sort of waiting move, and finally Magnus plays queen b2. And Hans takes the knight with the bishop. And plays b6. Magnus takes and plays c4 immediately. Opening up the position. Hans plays bishop e6. Now if pawn takes, bishop takes, and the queen is attacked, that's not favorable for Magnus, so he plays rook c1 instead. c5 breaking from Hans. He's playing very solidly, and rook f to d1 by Magnus. Completing his development, putting the x-ray on the queen, which now moves out of the x-ray. And how to continue? Magnus not really winning or outplaying his opponent, but having a small edge in the position. He takes on c5, knight takes c5, attacking the queen, and the queen has to move back, probably to b2, maybe b1, probably b2, because it's a little bit more active there. And he does it. Queen b2. Now there is a little repetition here with knight a5, maybe queen a1 and knight c5 back, but Magnus is probably not gonna take that draw offer. Magnus takes on d5. Now probably knight takes, that's usually the response, attacking the bishop on f4. And that's indeed what he does. Now Magnus has to move away the bishop. Yes, he does, to keep the bishop pair. Also attacking the pawn on g7. And Hans replies with moving the pawn to f6. The move that Ben Feingold hates to see on the board. Now Magnus has to choose where to put the bishop back. Probably to g3. No, he moves back to d4. And rook c8 by Hans. h3, a waiting move. And now, the idea of knight a5. Now Magnus has to go queen a1. He indeed does. And is Hans gonna move his knight back? Giving a sort of a draw offer this way. Yes, he does. And Magnus goes to b1. Saying, I don't want any draw offer here. I'm not gonna play for a draw here. I need that point. But Hans playing with Magnus a little bit here. Having this threat of knight c3 in the previous position. But Magnus declines the draw offer and goes bishop c4. Very Magnus-esque for him to not accept the draw. Hans moving back the bishop to f7 to a square that it is more protected. And a4 by Magnus. And knight b4 by Hans. Not really sure what he wants to do with this move. Bishop takes on c5, rook takes on d1, rook takes on d1. He is just looking to exchange, it seems. He's gonna take back the bishop with probably the pawn, giving the knight the outpost, and now he can sit there and do nothing. Right, Hans? No, you're not thinking about moving the knight to a2, right? Where it's not doing anything. Are you? Because, yes, it looks very appetizing that you're attacking the queen, but... yeah. But what else to play? Maybe rook d1? Rook d8, excuse me. Just looking for exchanging some stuff. Maybe bishop takes on c4, just exchanging. That looks good too. Oh no, he does play knight a2, and now this knight is just misplaced on a2. It's not doing anything on the rim of the board. But how to play for the win here? Magnus plays queen d3. And he moves back, but now, exactly, Magnus is taking over the board. The enemy half of black's side with queen f5, attacking c5 indirectly. Also, looking just to conquer some squares on Hans's side of the board. Hans knows he kind of messed up here. He's sensing that he's a bit in danger, that he's a bit worse. What to do? Maybe knight c6, but that doesn't look that good after bishop takes on f7. Yeah, Hans realizes that this position might not be the best he's ever been, and he plays rook d8 finally, looking for exchanges. Magnus does take, training off, but he still has the more active queen. And he shoops off the pawn, which now is undefended. Magnus up the pawn. Hans realizes, but he is also down to a lot of time pressure now on the clock, with only few seconds remaining. And he plays a5, protecting the knight. Magnus moves back the knight. Moves the knight to d4, and Hans take the bishop on c4. Magnus taking over with queen f7. Ooh, queen g8 by Hans, looking to exchange. And if Magnus exchanges now, it's actually a draw his position. Somehow, some way. So he doesn't exchange. That's very smart. Now it's just not looking good here. The knight is semi-unprotected piece. He's just attacking. Oh, and he dropped the knight. Yeah, okay, that's very climactic. And Magnus strikes back, equalizing against Hans Niemann. How will game 4 turn out to be? What a game, what a tourney, what a series of matches here in New York.